Thank you. I don't think I need the mic actually, but what I'm going to do is use it so that we get it on the stream and for the audio and for the social media so that you can all go subscribe. So, hello everyone. Anyway, I'm Aditya. I'm going to be your event host for today. Not a lot of people here, but as I said earlier, only the smartest have survived and come here. So thank you for coming, right? That's what I always like to start off with. I know you all take time on a sunny Berlin day, which is very unusual in the middle of winter, to come here to learn something and to network with other Kubernauts. So give yourself a round of applause for actually showing up. That's the first step. So thank you. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to start off with thanking the event sponsors, right? So Microsoft, as you know, is sponsoring this meetup for today. We are here at the beautiful office of, I'm going to make it a trivia. Who knows what office this is? Except the two people here who have been here before. Does anyone happen to know why this is a Microsoft office that looks like a startup? There is no hint somewhere. Anyway, cut it short. There is this company which was called Kinfolk, used to participate quite a bit in the Kubernetes community, got acquired by Microsoft, and this is now like a Kinfolk slash Microsoft office. That's why we have all these startup vibes, cool vibes. And Microsoft has been kind enough to let us use the space for the Kubernetes meetup. So thank you to Microsoft. We'll have some food and beverages also thanks to the organizers. So yeah, pretty cool. So today, I'm very excited for two talks by Powell and Julia. Powell is going to tell us about running macOS, running Kubernetes workers on macOS, which is pretty interesting. And he has some things to say about the open source project that they're working on. And then Julia is going to tell us about Giantsform and their journey with the community. Right, very excited for the talks here. I'm gonna just go into the agenda real quick. So we'll have a talk, we'll do the Q&A, we'll have a break for pizzas and drinks. You're welcome to still grab a drink before the talk start. We'll do a Q&A again, and then we'll have some time for networking and debriefs and just connecting with other people, right? So I encourage you all to participate. We are a very intimate group here today, and I encourage everybody to ask questions and give your feedback on the talks, in the talks or after the talks, and let's keep that going. And finally, logistics. We are going to have drinks in the back if you haven't found that already. Food is going to show up. We have some vegan and meat pizzas. So we'll have a lot of pizzas each today, which is going to be awesome. And the restrooms are over there. And yeah, that's it. Finally, we follow the CNCF Code of Conduct. So please be nice to everyone. That's the TLDR. And if you find a Code of Conduct violation, you're always welcome to reach out to one of the organizers wherever you feel comfortable. And without further ado, let's welcome Powell for the talk on Kubernetes for Mac, running your Kubernetes workloads on macOS worker nodes. Let's give him a round of applause, guys. This was, yeah.
Kubernetes. Should I start? Oh, hello, you made it. It's not easy.
So as an SRE, I have just found an incident with our video streaming setup, so I'm just going to fix it in front of you right here. So the link that you have is the wrong one. I
No
will
worries.
just fix it real quick and then we can get started. Yeah, exactly. No worries. All good.
Maybe adjust the light a little bit. The speaker is rather dark.
What?
Maybe adjust the light. The lighting next to the speaker.
What's your
I will just.
LinkedIn? This is if you just type it
Yeah.
in here, I will send.
I unplug it because I need to log in again. The first one.
Sorry about the hassle. It's been a logistical nightmare today.
Yeah, no worries. More people showed up, so it's good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
conversation around those three questions. Hopefully the how will be the longest part because I think it's the most interesting. So we needed to run the Kubernetes workloads on macOS worker nodes because we got asked by a customer, is it possible to consume the Mac Minis instances as Kubernetes nodes? And it's all, the whole topic started when AWS started providing Mac One Metal instances as EC2 instances. So Mac One Metal is basically Mac Mini, but with M1 chip. So a lot of people got interested in that because they were hoping to get their iOS builds faster, and because the Mac Minis were offered as like EC2 instance, they were also hoping they could like boot the instance up when they need it, and then turn it down when they don't need it, which is really cool, especially for Mac's continuous integration system, because those are usually pretty expensive. So our goal here was to run iOS builds on Kubernetes, basically. And why on Kubernetes? There are a few reasons. So first, like the customer already had their CI system built around Kubernetes cluster. There was already a lot of tooling around, a lot of monitoring, and things like that. So we decided like we should try integrating those instances as like first-class Kubernetes worker nodes. We are also hoping to get like auto-scaling features from Kubernetes, not only on the node level where you can basically scale those nodes like up and down, but also based on like a horizontal pod autoscaler. There is a way right now to scale horizontal pod autoscalers not only on the resource usage, but you can provide any custom metrics if it's in Kubernetes format. You can instrument your horizontal pod autoscaler so it basically scales up when the metric that you provide goes up. Or so that was our initial plan, to hook the metrics from the CI system, which was BuildKite in that case. And whenever there is bigger demand, so like probably middle of week when a lot of people is trying to build their apps, then we will just provide more CI agents. Yeah, so that was the goal that we set for ourselves. So we wanted to run this BuildKite agent with the node selector, meaning that it will only run on the nodes which has this Mac One Metal instance type, which is Mac Mini with M1 chip, but it's not a VM. So EC2 are usually Linux VMs. So this one, it isn't a VM, it's like bare metal Mac Mini machine. So now we come to the question how. So Kubernetes provides a lot of like extension points. There are like interfaces, you can write your own plugins. So we decided to integrate it as like first class worker node. But it wasn't like it wasn't our initial thoughts. Before we work with like virtual kubelet, which is library that allows you to provide like virtual node provider. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that library, but it basically, if you have a provider that you wrote and you run it in your cluster, it appears as like virtual node, and it's also responsible for like dispatching pod on the node or many nodes depending on your implementation. But it has some cons. Basically, it's confusing for people because they may have like multiple pods, but they seem to be running on the one node, but under the hood, the virtual kubelet provider spins up like many nodes, but they are not reported back to the control plane. So that's confusing for many users, and it doesn't work well with monitoring tools and other things which are based on like core Kubernetes APIs. So we decided to pick like another extension point. So on every Kubernetes worker nodes, there are three essential components. So there is kubelet, there is kubeproxy, and there is container runtime. So kubeproxy is responsible for providing for proxying the traffic from pod on the host to the Kubernetes cluster. Kubelet is responsible for dispatching pod, providing like pod sandbox. Also, if you run kubectl commands like exec or logs, it's also initially handled by kubelet. But kubelet delegates a lot of those calls to the container runtime. So on the classic Linux node, container runtime is usually containerd or creo. But it's very easy to swap the container runtime on the node. And it's easy because the contract between container runtime and kubelet is well defined. It's called container runtime interface. And yeah, that we decided that what we will do, we'll just swap the container runtime with something which can satisfy our requirements. So because the workloads that we wanted to run were very specific, there were iOS app builds. So you build your iOS app with, you need an Xcode, and it usually, it is not optimal to run like more than one iOS build on one machine. You will get the most of performance if you run just one build at the time and at the one machine. So we immediately know that we can constrain our nodes so they can only run like one pod at the time, right? And that's how ProCRI was born. So ProCRI is a shortcut for Process Wrapper CRI.
I don't want to add the cliffhanger there, but would you mind checking if you have the right screen shared? Because on the stream, it appears that you're sharing your terminal window.
This one?
I want to make sure that this awesome slide deck actually shows up on the thing. So just a quick intermission there. If you go back on this.
The stream is more embarrassing.
Sorry?
So the stream has the embarrassing stuff.
We can see what's on the stream. So good plug, shameless plug. Go check out the stream.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it seems like it's not the right one.
Yeah.
Right?
So if you stop sharing and then start sharing again with the slide deck, that's perfect. And then that was a cliffhanger for us to hear about the macOS container runtime.
Okay, so that will be this one,
yep.
I guess.
Ooh. And that's pretty interesting on the stream. So
Yeah, that was the most interesting part of this presentation. I'm sorry.
we made it right in time, so we can now go.
Yeah, so back to our slide. So we decided to implement very simple, basically like container runtime, but we actually didn't need even containers because iOS build is, you usually just start the process with like Xcode build CLI or something like that. So what we really needed, we needed a way to start the process on the Mac machines, and then to just track the process status. Like if it's failing, then we need a way to restart it, and so on. So we also needed like to compile the kubelet and kubeproxy for macOS. So the kubelet was like actually a bit easier part because with kubelet we only when we try to compile it for Darwin, we just noticed that there are a few things missing. So the C advisor wasn't there, like the library that was usually there for Linux, as well as few others. But thankfully, those few weren't needed for our workloads and for our needs. So we just implemented the stubs there, so that we can compile the kubelet. If you're curious, like what changes we need to make, there is a link at the bottom. So kubeproxy was a bit more challenging. So kubeproxy on Linux nodes usually operates on IP tables. On Windows nodes, there is like a wrapper around netsh command. And we took some inspiration from like that wrapper around netsh, but there's no netsh on Mac machines. So we just simply use efconfig in a way that if kubeproxy needs like IP address for the pod running on the node, we will just like use ifconfig to link the IP address to the virtual interface. And those changes are also open source. Yeah, so as I said, we didn't need virtualization really, but we still needed those dependencies or tools that were required to run those builds. So let's say like with any CI build that you would run on the Linux node, you would usually prepare the Docker image, which has everything that's needed. So for macOS, we use like Amazon machine image to install the Xcode there, to install like build-kite agent and everything what was needed for the workload. So that was kind of like our, not virtualization, but that was a way to create like environment that can be easily reproduced on any node. And we also need to configure kubelet, kubeproxy, and our CRI to run on those nodes. So we decided to run those as launchd agents. So launchd, I think, is very similar to systemd on Linux machines. I think systemd was actually like inspired and created after launchd. Yeah, so back to our container runtime interface. The container runtime interface itself, it's a gRPC API, and it exposes two services, the image service and also the runtime service. And the image service in CRI is responsible for like, basically kubelet uses that service to tell the container runtime to pull image, to check if the image is already on the host or like what images are already there, or to remove image. So in our case, we didn't need any of that, so we just implemented a stub which said like, which basically was having all those procedures, but like if kubelet asks like, is there image on the node, we'll always say yes. So yeah, that was a very simple part. The runtime service was a bit more complicated because we need to support like procedures like create pod sandbox, start container, create container. So what we implemented for create container and start container was just starting a process on the node, and we'll just save the process ID, and we'll watch basically for that process whether it's still running. The interesting ones are exec and attach. So we also implemented those. And using exec, you can actually kind of like SSH on the host because there is no virtualization layer. So you can do like kubectl exec to the pod and you land on the host itself. I think my battery will die in like a few minutes, so hold on for a second.
Is there something I can help with?
I think we are good. I just need to plug it in. Sorry, is this plugged in or? Yeah, I don't think so. Where is it?
Is there a switch on the other?
Here? Oh,
Yep.
maybe here.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. We are back. Yeah, so there are few other procedures in that service. So, for instance, like version, it's just reporting like the name of the container runtime and also a version. And I think right now I can play a demo that I have pre-recorded. Can you see it, or is it big enough?
We can try turning off the lights if that helps. See, it's a dark screen. Can you see it? Do you have a way to zoom it in the? So if you go to view.
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
I forgot where the zoom was.
Yeah, I think I've already zoomed.
Try doing a 4:3 aspect ratio. Maybe that zooms it a bit more. Yep. No. Oh. I think it's visible.
Is it visible for people at the end, or?
Visible but badly readable.
Okay.
How about you explain?
Yeah, sure. So basically, we are in the terminal, and I'm running just kubectl get nodes. And I have two nodes in that cluster. So one is a Linux node, and you can tell that from container runtime, which is like the column on the far right. And the container runtime for Linux nodes says Docker, which is like expected. And for the other node, which is like macOS node, and you can recognize that from OS image column here, which says like 10.15. The container runtime is actually the pros URI, which is the thing that I was talking about before. And in that demo, we are trying to run the deployment, which is like build kite agent. And we specify the node selector, so we are sure that it will land on our Mac node. And we define like two containers here. So one container will be build kite agent, and the other container is just like yes command. So it's kind of like for a demo to show you that basically most of the features that you would normally have in the deployment are supported. So in that case, the build kite agent will start as a one process, and if the other process, which is other container, is not interrupting it in any way, you can run you can specify multiple commands as containers and run those. Yeah, so if I go ahead and apply this, so we can see that now when you run kubectl get pods, you actually see that in the build kite agent there are two containers running, and the status is reported in exactly the same way as for regular pods, right? So now the fun part, if you take the name of the pod and you do kubectl exec to that pod, because there are no containers, so if you run exec, you actually land on the host itself. So it's kind of like SSHing to the host. So just to show that the normal workflow of operating a pod works, you can run kubectl logs, and the logs of the process are there as well. So for the build kites, you can see the logs, and for ES command, it will be just Ys all the way down. So on the right, when we are in the pod, which means that we are on the host machine, we can basically try interrupting one of the process, so one of the containers, just to see if from operator perspective on the left, who is running kubectl get pods and he watches for it, we can see that if we kill one of the process, it will get reported on the left. Yeah, so I'm just getting the process ID on the right, and I will kill that process basically. Yeah, so if I kill this process for a second, you can see that the kubelet immediately, our CRI immediately reports that the process is down. So you can see status with the exit code, and you can see that there are one of two containers currently running. But the good news is that kubelet will issue the command to restart the other process, which happened here. So we still have 2 out of 2 process/containers running, right? Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it for this demo. Yeah, so I know I've been talking for over 20 minutes, but I will try to convince you that this is a very simple setup, because the process CRI itself is just a few hundred lines of code. So it was really easy to write, and because there is not a lot of code involved, and it's simple, that way it has proven to be quite stable. So we ran the whole setup for over a year for a customer who has one of the biggest trading platforms, and users interact with that platform with the mobile application. So the entire iOS teams was basically using this for over a year without any major hiccups. So we had also a few other components in that setup. So one of them was custom autoscaler for that nodes, and that allowed them to save a lot of money, because you would normally expect that iOS team just works during the week, not during the weekends. So over the weekends, you can just scale down those nodes, as well as you can scale down those nodes outside of working hours and just leave a few. Yeah, and we are open sourcing all of it. So we have this repository here. And I would like to do like a quick walkthrough. So in this repository, we have three major things. So we have Packer config for building the Amazon machine image for those macOS nodes. And we are posting it as a reference. We haven't used it for a while, but I think it should be quite easy to replicate, or like it should be quite easy to build those images. So what it does, it basically installs Xcode and everything what we needed on the Mac machines, as well as our version of kubelet, our version of kubeproxy with that simple changes, as well as the process wrapper CRI. So that's the first part. We also have the Terraform config for creating EKS clusters, and we also create the launch template with the macOS image. So that way you can create a cluster and you have a launch template which you can use in your node group to just create like the node pool of macOS nodes. Again, we post it as a reference because we haven't used it for over a year. And we also are open sourcing ProCRI. So as I said, it's very simple, but in case if in the future you want to write your own CRI, I guess it could be a good starting point because it's quite simple. Yeah, so we are almost done. The other links, I mentioned that we use the metrics from continuous integration platform to power horizontal pod autoscaler. And for that, we had to also write very simple service for translating metrics from the format of CI provider to the Kubernetes metric format. And I gave a presentation about that last year, I think, on the Cloud Native Rejects, so here's the link. And I wanted to thank you, everyone who's been involved in the whole project, especially my two colleagues from Ilotu, as well as I would like to thank you for attention. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those either like publicly or privately. So yeah, thank you.
We can do a couple of questions, and if you wouldn't mind for the stream, just repeat the questions that you get. I do have to have my first question though.
Sure.
What were some of the challenges on node registration on the runtime? Did you have to do anything special on the kubelet registration to specify this as the runtime to be used, or was it just automatically done as part of?
Yeah. So the question was about registration of the kubelet or on the node itself, right? In the cluster. So, like one thing we had to do, we had this kubelet which was slightly modified for our needs, as well as kubeproxy, as well as our container runtime interface. And what we had to do when we were building an image for those nodes, we just need to specify, we just need to configure those as launch agents. That means that when you start that instance, it will be immediately started. So once the instance is booted, it will register to the cluster.
Right. So essentially, you have your own Kubernetes distribution that you maintain for yourself, which has the kubelet that is pre-configured to use this as the CRI.
So not necessarily the distribution, because we only maintain the image for worker nodes. The control plane was exactly the same, and we didn't bake the cluster name or any cluster specific information in the machine itself, but you can configure it as a user data. So when you start using the image, you can specify like what cluster that instance should join, right?
his talk, and let's go check out the project. So thank you, Pavel. Let's.
Thanks.
All right, the pizzas are here, and Benazir has something to say.
Just quickly, I think we had a special request this time in the events chat for vegan pizzas. So you'll see pizzas marked with veg there. They're vegan cheese. So don't actually think they're just cheese, and we didn't actually pay attention to anyone's dietary preferences. We try to make room for as much as possible. Yeah, sometimes it's just super special requests, and we have to go according to that. That's one. Two, we have cloud native rejects coming up soon. It's next month. It's not very far away. We're also organizers of Cloud Native Rejects. That's Andy, Chris, me, Lexi, and quite a few of us in our team in the Kinfolk team, now part of Microsoft. So if you're there before KubeCon, do plan to, and do try and check rejects out, try and stop by. If you need tickets, if you need discount codes, etc., do come by and speak with me, and I'll try and see how I can pass that along for you and your friends and any colleagues who are interested. We also have some job seeker promo codes, so we're very happy to distribute that as well. Ilotl is one of our sponsors as well. It's a great community conference ahead of the noise of KubeCon, so do try and check it out. I know that travel is restricted and not everyone's planning to go and be there in Amsterdam today. Aditya was telling me that he may or may not make it. But for those of you who do plan to make it and want to come even a day earlier or something like that, Rejects is on 16th and 17th of April. So yeah, try and make it and be there. And I promise you there'll be lots of chats, lots of networking. A fun, relaxed atmosphere before KubeCon, before all of the noise of KubeCon. So, and that's something we pride ourselves with. So, and it's also the platform for the rejected talks of KubeCon. So, yeah, which is why we're rejects. But yeah.
I always love to make the joke, if your talk gets rejected at the Rejects conference, we have Kubernetes Berlin. You're always welcome to come give a talk here, and yeah, I would love to chat over pizzas now, which I think are getting cool. So let's go right into it. Thank you, Pavel, and let's reconvene in 20-ish minutes. Is 20 minutes fine for everyone? We have a lot of pizzas and not a lot of people, so enjoy and see you in 20 minutes then. Logistics for everyone who came in late. Restrooms are over there. Drinks are over in the back, and the pizzas are also in the back.
Perfect. Okay. So a couple of weeks ago, Benazir reached out to me, asking me to give a talk. And my first instinct was this. So I felt like, I'm never going to do that. I haven't talked in front of people in, I don't know, 4 years maybe. COVID made it possible, right? We all could hide behind our screens. But then I thought, well, I do relationship building at Giant Swarm. Why should I hide? I talk to you all the time on conferences and events, so I can also do that here up front. So I stood up and faced my fears. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Giant Swarm and what we built with our community. And I'm going to start with our culture of open source and why we think it's important, how we live it at Giant Swarm, and with our customers and friends, which obviously would be all of you. So we at Giant Swarm caring. Open source is not just a buzzword for us, and it's a way of life. So it's people first, then it's the product, and then profit. So we really try to put people first. We have a very family-friendly environment. You can take holidays as much as you want. We don't count working hours. We established Project 32 in fall, meaning that we only work 32 hours per week now, which is really great. So you can work on side projects if you want in that time, take time off with your family. People do a lot of different things. We also believe in the power of collaboration, transparency, and community development. And that is why we've built our entire platform on open source technologies and actively contribute to numerous projects, including Kubernetes, Linkerd, Prometheus, Kyverno, and others. I think we have more than 20 people contributing to over 50 different projects, open source projects at the moment, which is great, I think. Yeah, we are proud to be part of that ecosystem that fosters innovation and empowers users to shape the tools they rely on every day. And we intensively interact and collaborate with our clients on a daily basis. And we also encourage them to share all their things all the time. So whether it's through our code or our support or our community events, we are committed to promoting the values and benefits of open source. So we work with, and we really think sharing is caring. And our events that I'm going to talk more about now are part of this sharing. So how it all came into being is with COVID. Almost 3 years ago, I started with Giant Swarm as a partner manager, and back then we did not really have a partner strategy in place, and I felt it was really difficult because you could not go out and meet people. Usually I would have gone to a nice conference like KubeCon that's taking place next month and would have just walked over to people and said who I am and what we are doing and what we could do together, and that was not possible, so we all were basically locked in. So a colleague of mine, his name is Tommy, and he works in marketing at Giant Swarm, and we came up with the idea to do virtual meetups, because meetups like this were not possible. And these meetups, we decided we do not do them in the evening, let's do them in the morning, because people will be at their desk anyways, all day long, at home, logged in. And we decided to do that with a partner, because back then I was still a partner manager. And the partner and we invited about 50 people, and we shipped them coffee and coffee mugs. And we had our CTO, Timo, give a nice little lightning talk about the future of Kubernetes. And then we were quite surprised that 10 people out of those 50 people signed up, and 8 of them showed up to that meeting. So we had a really nice little meetup, virtual, and people really enjoyed it. It was an engaging discussion, people had a lot of questions, and they shared a lot of things they were dealing with in their everyday work and in, I don't know, problems, issues they had. And we figured, okay, that was nice, we should do that again. So we figured, and we should not only do that again with partners, but we could do that with our customers also, because we have not seen our customers in ages as well. So that's what we did next. So in 2021, in the beginning, we had our first, what we call Giant Swarm and Friends evening. And that's actually an evening event now. So we start at 8 p.m. We invite people. To this first one, we had customers only. And the thing is, we as Giant Swarm, we only organize those events. So we usually don't speak. It's talks by customers. For example, in this first meeting, we had Adidas giving a talk on how they did hype sales. And it was a very small first event. I think we invited about 20 people and 13 of them showed up. We shipped beer. We usually ship beer to every event now. And I select the beer, and then we have a little beer introduction to each beer. Before these events, I didn't know anything about beer, and now I feel I've learned a lot. So there's a lot of interesting little breweries everywhere around the world, and a lot of fun, interesting beers. So, but that's just a side note. So this first event worked also really well, and we figured, okay, why is that? So what we created was a safe space where people could meet and interact and chat, enjoy a beer, and have a nice time and talk about what was going on in their work life. And that substituted a little bit for meetups and get-togethers at conferences, for example. So we usually have a verbal NDA going on in these events. We don't record them. We don't take notes. We don't share anything outside of the event. It's really, in the event, a safe space, and it's invite only, so we invite people and don't advertise it on social media, for example. So that helped a lot, that people felt safe, and they really share their work stories. So that's really nice. We have our COO, Oliver Tillman. He's doing the moderations all the time, which is also quite nice. He is a really good moderator. And in virtual meetings, sometimes the danger is that some people might get lost. They are behind the screen. They are very, not interacting a lot. They can hide behind their screen. And he is very good in asking questions, engaging, making people talk. So that's actually quite nice. So I have some numbers prepared for you now, which might be nice to see how the events developed. So as you can see here, I hope you can see that in the back. We had this first event in February 2021, quite a few participants, but the numbers grew steadily. So we had, by May 2021, we already had over 30 people attending, and then we had a little drop in numbers. What happened? Obviously, COVID was less dangerous in summer. People went out again. People were very happy to go on vacation and not behind the screen all the time. So in summer, that's what we realized so far. The numbers are always a little bit lower than during the rest of the year. So then we had in fall, actually the events with the most participants up until the mid-60s. And these were actually quite big events. And we figured that's quite nice, but maybe we don't want to have 100 people in a Google Meet, because then you also lose people and you lose attention and you cannot really engage anymore. And what we did is we opened the events up in general. So we not only had customers in the meetings anymore, but we also invited friends, community people to also participate. That's why the numbers rose so much. And then we decided to have also focused events. We have general, broader ones where we invite everyone, and then we have smaller ones for specific industries, for example, financial service, because we felt they have similar problems and issues they are dealing in their everyday work with. For example, we had an event last year where we had a lawyer speaking about compliance and GDPR and moving actually into the Azure cloud. How to make that safe, right, and not have troubles on the law side afterwards. That was also very perceived because a lot of banks have this issue. And then here you can see it's again this summer drop of the numbers. And here we also skipped an event. You can see that maybe not so well in the back. We had one in April and then in June last year. And in May, obviously, we had KubeCon in Valencia, which a lot of us attended. And we figured it doesn't make sense to have a virtual meeting as a competition to KubeCon. Let's do something nice at KubeCon. So we had, for the community, a big party where we invited, I think we had over 350 people in the end that showed up to this party. And then we started off end of August again, and it was really nice to see that a lot of people remembered and came back. So we also had almost 50 people showing up. And then last fall, the numbers dropped again, which I found interesting because the year before, with COVID restrictions, the numbers went up. But what happened was, in fall, all kinds of conferences took place at the same time, like ContainerConf, Container Days in Hamburg, KubeCon in Detroit, a lot of things, and people were traveling to those events. So we were quite happy with February this year. We had a big one again with almost 50 people. So that shows us if you do the events regularly, people remember them, and they maybe even have blockers in their calendar, and they come back. So that's the nice thing about it. And the next event we will actually have after KubeCon, and it will be on open source. So, yeah, but that said, there's of course always things you learn and challenges that come up when you organize events. So I guess, Benazir, you know that. It's not always just running smoothly. And let me see if I can change. I lost my, here. So the biggest challenge I feel is always coming up with a good topic and finding the right speaker for it. So it's always important to have something that people are interested in. Otherwise, they won't sign up and won't come. That the best meeting is nothing without a nice talk. So we usually have a kickoff meeting internally where we discuss what kind of topic would be nice to have, and then we reach out to speakers. And sometimes it happens, or it happened to me once, that I had a last-minute dropout. So at an event in fall, the speaker, he wrote an email to me 3 hours before the event and said, "Hi Julia, I'm sorry, I cannot make it. I have an urgent family thing that came up." Well, and then you're standing there and you lost the speaker. Luckily, we had 2 speakers for that evening, so we still had a main act. And then I remembered one of the people from the community that signed up. He also was very expert in the topic we had. And I asked him if he could share some things without having slides prepared or anything, just talking a little bit about his experiences. And that worked very well, he did that. So in that case, I was lucky. But the learning from that was, of course, always be prepared and have a backup. So what I try to do now with the team is having someone in the back that could substitute and jump in if a speaker gets sick or cannot make it. And I said, usually we don't speak as Giant Swarm because we are in the background, we just organize. But in that case, I usually ask someone from the team that could substitute and tell something related. So just that the event can take place. Yeah. Then, of course, you saw the challenge already, numbers dropping in summer when people go out more and maybe are not interested in sitting behind the screen but want to meet real people, like here at this event. But I think we overcame that challenge a little bit with regularity and having the events taking place on a regular basis. Then I had a nice problem this February, actually for the first time. I never had that before. So it happened this. We were out of beer. So we had more people registering than I expected because the previous events were less attended. There were not so high numbers. So I reserved less beer than people that registered. But we have a very nice company that we are working with. So I called them and asked them, hey, Susanne, her name is Susanne, can you help me out? We have more people coming in and we need more beer. And then she said, yeah, I don't have this particular beer anymore, but I can recommend you something else. And then that was fine. So some people got different beer, problem solved, all good in the end. Yeah, I guess that's some challenges. And I'm sure there will be more when we have more events. There's always something coming up that you don't expect, but it's fine. I have really nice colleagues that always help out, a nice team. Yeah, so moreover, it's a journey and it's always under construction. You always can improve things and can do things better. So we all try to improve the events on a regular basis. My colleague Tommy, I told about him before. He built a very nice landing page for people to easily sign up without filling in any more information than necessary, just your email, and if you want beer, of course, we need your address, otherwise it's not possible. We have automated emails going out as reminder emails 1 week and 1 day before the event, shipping also the calendar invite again so that really nobody misses the meeting. And we also, what we usually do is we have our colleagues inviting in the first step, because we feel if you know people in the community or with our customers, it's nice if you are the one inviting the person you know. It's more personal, so we usually do that first. But of course, everyone is very busy and sometimes you might forget someone. And we overcame that by having a special email going out to everyone that ever signed up to our events, checking in with people that are not registered yet, saying, hey, I saw you're not on our list yet. Do you want to come? This event takes place in 2 weeks. If you want beer, please sign up by next Monday or whatever. And usually that gives us 5 to 10 more people that register. So that's quite nice. Yeah, these are some improvements we set up already. The next thing we are working on is to reward people from the community that are very active and are showing up every time. So we have people that come to every event that have been there from day one. They even show up when they're on vacation. That was my favorite thing, that a person sitting on the balcony on a holiday home logged to our meeting once. And we want to reward that, right? If you're coming 5 or 10 times, asking questions, participating, giving a talk, whatever, in the future, these people will get some Giant Swarm swag, a reward, whatever. We are working on that right now, because it's really nice if you are an active member of the community and yeah, show up regularly. Moreover, what's also nice to know is that our events, they usually have 2 talks and they end at 10:30 officially, but people like to stay because they don't have a long way back home, I guess, and maybe it's also because we have a nice setting. So a couple of them usually stay until after midnight and have very intense tech discussions until the very end. I usually go to bed before that because at some point I cannot follow anymore. But yeah, that's really nice actually. Yeah, so this leads me to the last point already, and I lost my mouse again. How our community can grow and how you can become part of it and help us grow it. So in the ways of improving, we have created a page that we send to people where you can register and where you can show your interest in becoming part of our community. Because as I explained earlier, it's an invite-only community to have that safe space and to really have open discussions. So people can sign up. And we always look for speakers. So if you're interested in becoming a speaker, contributing, giving a nice tech talk, you can reach out to me afterwards. I will hang around here a little bit and we can have a chat and connect. So that would be really nice. Last but not least, we also try to grow inside the ecosystem and work together with other community people. For example, we are having discussions with the Women in DevOps people at the moment, and we will most likely have an event with them coming up in May, because we feel it's really nice to engage and interact and make something valuable for everyone. So I think Giant Swarm and Friends really has become a nice thing to do. Really enjoy working with that, and I think we have a very nice ecosystem and a very great community, and I enjoy working with every one of you. So thank you all for listening. So I think I don't have any more slides. Oh yes, this one, the final one. So we are not sitting in our meetings like that. It's more active, even though we are behind a screen. So come and check it out. Thanks. Yes.
What do you find the most rewarding about the Kubernetes community specifically? I know Giant Swarm has been doing this since the beginning of the company. It's part of the ethos. What's most rewarding for you personally, going through all of the tough logistics and technical glitches of the events? What keeps you here all this time?
I only have met really nice people so far since I started at Giant Swarm, and everyone is always, I'm not a tech person, and I often need a little more explanation to tech topics than maybe you would need, but everyone I met and talked so far has always been really nice and helpful. That's what I appreciate a lot. And people really love what they are doing. This is also really nice. So if you talk to someone at KubeCon, even though I cannot follow them after a couple of minutes anymore, you really see that they live for that and they are enthusiastic about it, and it's really nice to see people being so happy with what they do. And then, of course, when you do those events and you see people hang until 1 in the morning, then you feel, okay, something was right. So it must have been a nice evening, even behind the screen and not in a virtual, meeting room like it is here.
We can take a couple of questions from the audience.
Yes.
So if they wanted to ask you about your experiences or anything about the community, happy to. We have a couple of people, so we could have that discussion before we wrap up.
So, I have a question. How do you motivate the speakers to bring input? Because it's an effort to build the slides and prepare. Is it just a beer or?
So the question was how we motivate our speakers. So in the beginning, it really was a lot of customers we asked, and we still do that. So I have some colleagues here, so they work with the customers on a daily basis, so they know them very well. That always helps when you have a good connection already to ask people for that kind of favor. And then, I don't know, it's actually, that's why I said it's the biggest challenge to find speakers that want to do that. And it's more like, I don't know, it's just, maybe it's nice to be part of that community and the events and to share your story and what you have built, what you've done, maybe what challenges you have overcome. And you also, I think you also get something back because the audience usually is very active in discussing and suggesting alternative ideas or telling what other people have done and what obstacles they have overcome. So that's quite a nice approach. And of course the beer, of course.
If I may add to that, as you said in the beginning, it's a really safe space, and especially for people who have joined a few times, they know everybody already, so they feel safe to, maybe it's their first talk or maybe it's their first presentation, so they feel really safe to do it in that kind of setting. That's my experience has been with it.
Yeah, I would like to share that I feel the same here. I've been part of the Kubernetes community for about 6-ish years now. And for me, this is home. I come here because I see this as something giving back. And if there was like 2,000 people here, I would still be okay because I feel like we are all in the same spirit. And I'm usually nervous giving talks in front of people, but this is our community and it's a safe space. That's what is always bringing me here as well. So, any other question?
Yeah, so I was interested that you decided to invite only because it kind of seems, in some ways, the opposite of what we're trying to do with open communities and being inclusive, letting everyone come, and invite only may seem exclusive, right?
Yeah, but everyone can. Yeah, I know what you mean. And it's not that I only come to you and say you're invited. So that's why we have that page that I had before. Invite only means we don't advertise it on social media like Twitter or LinkedIn, so that because we want to keep it a safe space, right? So we don't want things to go to, I don't want to say leak outside, that sounds too negative. But we feel if we have too much advertising and maybe recording, people don't open up that much anymore. But you can, of course, that's why I've showed this page, you can, of course, register and then you get the invites from us.
Yeah, I have one question, but I realize it could probably be a little bit in the same vein or not. You decide. You spoke a little bit about focused events and
Mhm.
I was just curious to know what your focus event strategy is and how it applies to, say, a meetup, for instance, or, like, I know you touched upon choosing specific topics and all of that, so anyway, the TLDR for that is,
So
what is the overall focus events?
So we have the broader topic ones, like this would be here, where you have tech topics, general tech topics, or maybe also softer ones, like my talk. We once had a talk by someone about self-setting salaries or how to acquire talent during COVID, which was troublesome. But then sometimes we do the more specialized ones that we ship, for example, to people that are in e-com because they have similar problems. And then the talk is also very specific to, I don't know, the shop that they are building and the technology behind that. And of course, we could also ship that to everyone, but probably not everyone would be interested in these specific problems. So, but if people are interested, they still get the invite. It's, of course, we invite everyone, but usually only the people from that area sign up because it makes sense to them.
But then the follow-up question to that would be an invite only in that sense? Like, how do you take a call with that? Or is it something that's open to anyone who's interested, but perhaps doesn't necessarily fit, it wouldn't really, for instance, be hardcore tech if,
Mhm.
you're talking about something softer, like, I don't know, we're talking about, say, building strong OS communities or something like that, and it could be broad, it could be narrow. So how do you take a call on whether it should be invite only, especially if you're looking at a certain event capacity, if it, for instance, shouldn't exceed 200 or
Yeah, exactly. That's
100 because it become very difficult to manage otherwise. But just want to know your thought process on.
Yeah, I think at the moment it worked out quite nicely with the sizes and the way we invite, but it can be with the growing community that we have to evolve and change things around in the future and make more focused events out of that what we have now. We would see that over time, I guess. Yeah, and that's what I'm doing. I'm running around at KubeCon talking to people and checking people that come to the booth, for example. I always ask them, okay, what are you doing? Are you interested in maybe giving a talk at some point? Join the events, that's what we are doing. And then usually we have the badge scanned and then we reach out to those people afterwards. So, yeah, to steadily grow that.
What is the success criteria for you in terms of Meetup? Is it only the number of people attending, or do you have any other parameters to judge an event is successful or not?
I also like to see people rejoining. So for me, it's not only being there once, but coming several times and really have, as Cedric mentioned, this trustful environment where people start to know each other and feel comfortable sharing what they are doing. And also not only give back, but also get information back, right? And also maybe help. They discuss also very problems they deal with.
All right, any final questions? I wanted to add something to that if there's no other questions. So I just wanted to share, I know it's a tough time right now in the market and a lot of companies are letting go of people. To answer to your question, what is the success criteria for the Meetup for me? It's like people connecting with each other and perhaps finding new opportunities. I know a bunch of people who have found jobs through coming to the Meetup and just saying, hey, you know what, I'm working on something, we have a role, sounds like it's interesting, they get a new opportunity, they evolve in their careers, and then 2 years later, they come back to you and tell you that, hey, I found a job through that Meetup and I'm really happy now. That's, for me, the long-term reward that you get as a Meetup and community member. It's just seeing people grow and knowing that you had some contribution to it. It's just amazing, and I'm sure you share that at Giant Swarm.
Yeah, totally. We sometimes have people reaching out to us after the events asking to be connected to some other person because it was interesting, they learned something, they wanted to discuss that further. So that's actually also in that direction, it's really nice.
All right, so if there's no other questions, I'm going to thank Julia here. So let's all thank Julia for sharing her experiences. That was a great talk on community, and I was just like sitting there reflecting on how far we have come with this meetup. Just wanted to share, we started this meetup, what, 4 months ago now? Restarted it, actually. Chris did a really good intro on how this meetup originally started. We have Andy here. This is, again, the Kinfolk office, right? So it has some background, and this meetup has been going on for a while. And it's just amazing to see faces which Cedric, we met last time, we had some pizza together. It's always nice to see people come back. So I'm looking forward to you coming back next time. And again, I'm going to do the closing spiel here, so bear with me. But always, always looking for feedback. Today I know there was logistic challenges, right? So the barricade in the 6A, sometimes you just get some of that randomness. Sometimes the video setup doesn't work, but that means that there's always opportunities where you can help, right? So if any of you would like to come over and help with the next meetup, always feel free to get in touch. We could always use some more hands. You could just come over 1 hour before and help us set up the AV, and hopefully you learn something out of it as well. It's very rewarding over a long period of time to see the community grow, and I hope you all see each other, bump into each other at KubeCon really soon. And before Benazir says it, there's another conference before KubeCon, which is Cloud Native Rejects, right? So if you want to go attend Cloud Native Rejects, please reach out to Benazir. If not, find Benazir and Julia, perhaps Andy, and a bunch of other people at KubeCon and say hello. And Benazir, do you want to say something and then close off?
Yes. We have a bunch of promo codes for Cloud Native Rejects, so you can just come have a chat with me. We'll see what you're interested in and all of that, and I can share those codes for you and your network and your communities. And yeah, it would be great if you share that around, spread the word. Cloud Native Rejects is on April 16th and 17th in Amsterdam, ahead of KubeCon. Andy, I don't know if you also want to talk a little bit about it and share a little something. But there's so many nuggets of thoughts around Cloud Native Rejects. There's like so much. We'll try and see if we can, someday maybe have something like Reject Special and everything, and share all our highlights over the years. I'm fairly new to this, but it's exciting for me too, and yeah, that's why I think this is the second time this evening that I'm reiterating. There's also information online. You'll find it on our Kinfolk handles, of course, and you'll find it on the Rejects handles too. So do come by if you're in Amsterdam to Rejects and to, we'll see. We'll see after Rejects, but if you're sticking around for KubeCon and you come a day ahead or a day earlier and everything, just to come by to Rejects.
3 action items for everyone, really. Basically, check out Rejects, check out Julia's and Giant Swarm's community. There's always opportunities, and you're welcome to join the next time. And then finally, grab some more pizza. There's still some pizza left. And grab some pizza, grab some t-shirts, grab some stickers, and hang around for a while. We usually stick around for another hour or so, or maybe...
We're here till 10.
We stick around until someone kicks us out, right? So at least I don't work here, so until someone kicks me out or Benazir does. So let's grab some pizza and have a chat, and I will see you all next time. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, guys.
All right, let's go.